Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tea and Type Agent Offers. I'm MK England. I'm the author of the YA sci-fi The Disasters, coming out next October, probably. And Jamie Paxton is actually out of town with her family tonight, so I have a special guest with me here tonight, one of my wonderful writing friends who lets me babble at her all the time, which I sincerely appreciate. I have Leigh with me here tonight. Tell us about yourself.
Hello, I am very excited to be here and filling in for Jamie tonight. I know MK and Jamie through the Pitch Wars class of 15. That's where we all met. And now we are all Pitch Wars mentors, which is fun to be on the other side as well. I'm a YA author. I write mostly spec fic, but kind of veering into some contemporary now, which is exciting. And I am repped by Alana Roth-Parker at Lauradale Literary. So that is me.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining me tonight. Yes. So of course, Leigh has seen Tea and Type before, so she knows the question I'm about to pitch at her. What are you drinking tonight, Leigh?
I am drinking just mint tea, but I am drinking it in my Pal's bookstore mug from when I went to Pal's in Portland. And I have a Hufflepuff coaster. So, yes.
I never thought about accessorizing with coasters for Tea and Type. Like, damn, you one-upped me. My coaster is my sticky notes with like the writing projects that I want to tackle next. So, good on you. I am drinking this like Celestial Seasonings Echinacea tea because I am absolutely not getting sick. No. It's not happening, and I'm in denial. It is less bad than I remember it being, so there's that, I guess.
That's good.
Yeah. So our topic for today is agent offers, and it's very timely because anybody who is sort of in the Pitch Wars orbit knows that the agent round has been going on since November 4th, which I think was last maybe Thursday or Friday, Wednesday, whatever. So it means there's, a lot of stress flying around, a lot of questions, a lot of people are, they just got agent stuff on the brain. And for anybody that's not like in on the Pitch Wars loop, I'm going to include a link down in the show notes for what Pitch Wars is, where you can go learn some more about it. But in short, it's a contest that pairs unagented writers with mentors who are more experienced in the publishing world. And they work with them for 2 months to get their manuscript into shape for the agent round, which is going on right now, where excerpts of the books and pitches are posted up online for agents to go through and request more. So I guess let's talk a little bit before we dive in about that whole Pitch Wars request process, because I think, we have both learned that, all of those Pitch Wars success stories, like they end in very different ways, and the amount of requests that you get, like, really is not a good predictor necessarily of future success. What was your experience like?
So I was in the Zero Request Club in 2015. I had 0 requests from agents with my pitch and first page up there. And there's a lot of agents that participate. So I know what it's like to sit there and kind of look at your page and be like, no one wants this project. But it turns out that's not true. I know it feels like it at the time when you're looking at your page and you keep refreshing it and there's no requests on it. But all it really is an indicator that they didn't want it in that immediate second when they were going through the showcase. Some of them may still not want it, but some do. And I found that when I was querying that a lot of Pitch Wars agents actually requested my project and requested the full, which I was surprised because I thought they'd seen it and didn't like it. So, I had 0 requests during the agent round, but in about 2 months of querying, I had 2 offers of rep from the exact same manuscript. So it's really not an indicator of quality or anything like that. It's just kind of what people wanted on that day when they were perusing the showcase.
Yeah, and I think, for Pitch Wars, all you get to show is a short pitch, like 30 to 50 words, and the first 250 words of the manuscript. And for some stories, that just is not the best way to show it off. Especially stories with really complex world building or that are doing sort of odd genre mashing things. Like I know, your first story did. It can be really hard to get that across in such a short amount of time. And stories like that are usually much better served by a full query letter, a full 10 pages or a first chapter or something. So it's all about what shows your story off the best. In Pitch Wars 2015, I did end up with 9 requests, which I was really happy with, especially for sci-fi. I was like, I'm gonna get nothing. But actually, none of those 9 ended up being my agent. I got my agent just through a cold query later on, and it was through an R&R at that, revise and resubmit. So it definitely, does not necessarily go the way you might think it would. And Jamie has talked about this on the show a couple of times, but, she was one of those that had an offer of representation before the agent round was even over, back before the rules were changed. And yet, her first book ended up not selling, and she, is now back in the query trenches with a new book that is awesome. So I think that's going to change for her soon. But so it just those pitch war stories end in all kinds of ways. But let's assume that you're out there for pitch wars. You've gotten some requests. You send out your materials tomorrow, and you do get an offer. What do you do? Oh my god! What do you do? I mean, first of all, you don't panic.
But you really probably do panic.
But you
just for a second, it's okay.
I do understand. I would say, like, if at all possible, if you can get some distance from your inbox, then that would be great. If you're doing NaNoWriMo, that's a great way to do it. Or just working on the next project in general. Go on a vacation, treat yourself right, do something. Yeah, once you get that email to set up the call, then it's like the world stops, and you're like, oh god, what do I do? What do I do? Oh no. At least that's what it was like for me.
Yeah. And no matter how many articles you've read along the way that tell you how to prepare for it and what to do, it just kind of like all flies out the window in that second. You're like, what am I supposed to do? Do I reply to the email? Like, even those basics, or I'm like, I guess I should write back and say, like, yes, let's talk.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. And I would say, like, don't get your hopes up right away. I'm not saying like it's not an exciting thing, because an agent is taking time out of their extremely busy day to sit on the phone with you, and that's an amazing thing. For me, I've told this story before in the past on here, but my first call with my agent Barbara was back like maybe 2 or 3 weeks after Pitch Wars. And it was this big whirlwind. I got home at the end of the day. I was so pumped for our call. And then it was like, hey, so I love your book. It's really fantastic. Here's everything that's wrong with it. Please fix it and send it back to me. And I was just like, wah, 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 wah. Like, it was terrible. But wonderful also, because it really, like, oh my God, boy, that book had a problem. Just be prepared, I guess. Like, don't go in. I don't know. I'm a fan of like low expectations, breed happiness.
Yes, it's kind of the same as the agent round of, expect nothing, but hope for the best and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So what kind of prep did you do for your calls?
So I went back to, all those blog posts and articles that are online, especially from reliable sources. Like Susan Dennard has some great resources on her page. There were a few other forums and things that I checked, and I kind of just started pulling together the questions that people had out there, the recommended, make sure you ask these on your call. And I just started pulling together all the ones I liked, all the ones I thought were important, and putting them in a Word document just so I had it. And then I made sure I had that in front of me day of, so that I remembered them, remembered what I wanted and needed to ask, and could kind of take notes there as well throughout the call, since, when you're caught up in it, just kind of trying to figure out what is happening, what's happening next, what we're talking about, it's kind of easy to then forget what the comments that were happening at that time were. At least that's how I am with pretty much everything, where it's like I need to pay attention in the moment. I need to write things down. So that's what I did to prepare. I made sure I had all of the questions I could find out there, all the things I wanted to know. I had a notebook, things to write things down with. I went home early from work that day. I think it was a Friday, so went home a little bit early. So I was home where I was quiet and I could, not worry about someone coming into the room that I was in and saying, hey, what are you doing? So,
that is an underrated piece of advice, though. Like, please make sure you're somewhere with good, reliable cell phone signal. Like, yes. I was legitimately worried about that. So I was like, I got to get home. I got to leave work early so I can make sure I'm there.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. If you can use a landline phone, then do it. Just like a job interview. Mm-hmm. In hindsight, like, I really wish that I was just so amped up in the moment for, I had 3 offers, and for all 3 of those calls, like, even by the 3rd one, when I was like, I should know what I'm doing right now. It's like, I'm a pacer when I'm on the phone. So I'm just like wearing a hole in my carpet, pacing back and forth as they like, yammer all of this information at me. And I'm just like, yeah, sure. I should have taken notes, but it was going by so fast. Like, somehow all of these calls were like 45 minutes and they were just like over, done. I don't know what happened. So I do wish I had taken better notes. Like, I definitely advise that y'all try and take some notes while you're going if you can. Like, no agent is going to be like, oh, what's this person doing? If you're like, oh, hold on a sec, let me write that down. It'll be like, wow, what a put together and organized person you are. You are not a mess. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So what are some of the questions that you asked that you think you got the most out of?
Let's see. So, of course, asking about the manuscript that the agent is offering on, asking what they like, where they see room for improvement, what sort of revisions they would recommend, and what that looks like to them. Trying to sense out what their vision is and making sure it's kind of the same as yours of where you want the project to go. I asked about where my agent and both agents I spoke to, where they saw it in the marketplace, where they would think to submit it, kind of where they saw it fitting, to get kind of, again, that sense of what their vision overall was. I asked a lot about their working styles, how they worked with clients that they had then, what would happen if my manuscript doesn't sell, what would we do then? Just trying to get that big picture of what it would really look like to work with this person on this project. Would we see it the same way? Would we be compatible? Would our work styles match each other enough? Or because you know how it is, even at your day job, when you just are working with someone that you just don't click with and they give you some sort of instruction and you're like, this is just not going to work, and it's a miserable experience. So it's nice to kind of feel out, how you might work together and get a sense of that ahead of time. Let's see, I think those were the big things that I focused on. Were there other questions that you asked?
I think the one you ended on is a really big one for me, the communication style and all of that. What I really liked about my call with Barbara is that, I asked her, like, what's your preferred communication style? And she was like, I am really adaptable to what my clients need. I have a client that I communicate with almost exclusively in emojis. I have another one that just like emails me gifts constantly, and that's how I know what she's up to. And I'm like, all right, like, I send like really rambling long emails that I read 20 times before I click send, and they're overly detailed, and like, as long as you're cool with that, she's fine with that.
Yeah.
For me, it was really important that I get a career agent rather than a book-to-book agent. I think this is one of the most important questions you can ask if it's not clear from the get-go. Because I absolutely wanted somebody who was going to help me long-term, like, have a vision for my whole career, not just for this one book. Mm-hmm. And so along those lines, I tend to genre hop and like age category hop a lot. I have my space opera coming out, but immediately after I finished that, I wrote like a sweet contemporary, queer romance, and then
which was also fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you think so. So I'm all over the place, and what made me go, yes, Barbara is the one, and she was like, as long as everything you turn into me is of the quality that I expect from you, then I will sell it. And so I knew she would have my back no matter where I decided to take my career. And her client list showed that. She reps everything from, memoir to like serious, mysteries and thrillers and stuff, down to like, steamy romance and all over the place. She has very eclectic taste. So I knew that would fit me as a writer.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point, kind of looking at at what the agent's client list looks like. And also along with that, kind of talking to some of their clients. I talked to clients for both of the agents that I talked to and found it really, really helpful just to ask them what their experience was like working with the agent, what they saw as like their greatest strengths, where they found good comfort in working with them. The greatest strengths question was actually, I think, my favorite, because what comes to mind for people as that, number one greatest strength is pretty telling, other than just a bullet list of like, they're good at this and this and this and this. But if you ask them to pick the one greatest thing, you kind of learn a lot about what they toss out there. Did you talk to clients of the agents that you were talking to?
I was in sort of a unique situation in that because I was doing an R&R with Barbara, she actually hooked me up with two of her clients as sort of critique partners to kick my manuscript's ass and get it into shape for her. So I worked pretty closely with them to start out with. And so I was already in contact with the two of them, and they had nothing but wonderful things to say. For the other two offering agents, I did not talk to clients because it was a really fast turnaround decision. And so I just sort of had to assess in the moment during the call. And it was, I don't know, for me, it was a really difficult but also clear decision. And that probably makes no sense. But I guess I would say it was emotionally difficult, but my choice was clear. It was clear what the right fit for me was. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, it was interesting. I was actually comparing very, very similar offers from very similar agents. They had similar client lists, similar size agencies, similar resources. On paper, they were almost identical. Because sometimes it helps to look at those things and really think, do I want to be in a big agency with a ton of resources, or do I want to be with an agent that has a really small list? And those things can help be deciding factors. But all of those things were the same for me. So at the end, it really just comes down to that gut feeling of, who you think clicks with your book and clicks with your long-term goals, and where your gut just kind of says to go.
Yeah, and I think what you bring up is a good point too about all of the agency level stuff. I really believe that 95% of this decision should be made on the agent level. How are you clicking with the agent? How do your goals line up? All of that wonderful stuff you just said. And that other 5% is what is the contract like for this agency? How do they treat their clients? How do they handle foreign rights? What do they have in-house versus what do they outsource? All of that kind of stuff. And it doesn't always matter, but it's good to look at that stuff and be aware of that stuff. And that's stuff that's good to ask about during the call as well, actually. How do they handle foreign rights? How do they handle film rights? All of that kind of stuff. So I guess that brings it to multiple offers. What do you do when you have multiple offers? And we've talked about this a little bit already. How do you think that changed your experience?
Well, I was going to say something that's going to sound really silly, but I was going to say it's different because it gives you multiple options, which clearly it does if you're talking about multiple offers. But it changes what you're thinking about from more of a yes or no, is this something I want or I don't want, to which do I want? And really kind of switching, for me, it felt like I was switching my mindset to kind of comparison. And like I said, they were very similar on paper. So really thinking about what was important to me and where I could find that. But it is also interesting just to have the conversations with agents about your work, because that was another thing where both agents actually had pretty similar ideas, pretty similar feedback. They had some differing opinions when it came to the revision that we were going to do, but at the same time, it wasn't like they were going in two drastically different directions. So I'm coming from the lens of kind of when you have two offers that are very, very, very similar. But I know many people that end up with multiple offers that are vastly different, where agents are proposing completely different things to their books. Agents have completely different timelines and processes, and it would just be wildly different experiences to work with one or the other. So it really does kind of give you that option to think about what you really want, and not just, does this work for me, yes or no, but which of these do I want? What is the best fit for me?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think you need to do as much of that research ahead of time as you possibly can, because agents, differ in a lot of ways, their working styles and all of that kind of stuff. But they also differ in how they make the offer. Some people are going to want to talk to you and then email you an offer later. Some of the like really big agents are going to expect you to accept the offer immediately on the phone. And it's up to you how you want to handle that kind of thing. And how long of a turnaround time you want to set if you do want to consider, your multiple offers and all of that. So those are just all things that I really recommend you think about ahead of time, so that you can be prepared before you go into the call and not be shell shocked. And don't be afraid to push back if you feel like you do need more time or something,
I actually did bump out my timeline from what I had originally set, and both agents were fantastic about it, which again was not helpful in a tiebreaker. but it was, they both, said, it's your career, you'll know what's best for you. If you need an extra day or two, just let us know if you have other questions, which was nice to hear.
Yeah, and I think as long as you are, totally professional throughout the whole thing, and just, make it clear that you are really thinking about your career long term, then I think most agents are going to understand that. And I think the last thing I would say on this is just to be prepared for the emotional weight. If you have vacation days from work, probably take them. If you make sure you have the emotional space to process things. And, I guess the worst thing about multiple offers for me was having to say no to someone, and it was terrible. All three of my offers were wonderful. We had great phone calls. They were so nice. Each of them really suited me in different ways. And I could see myself at any one of those agencies, but, for me, there was a very clear choice, for a lot of reasons. And I think, as much as we say this is like definitely a gut decision, I think your gut should play a huge role in this. And it did for me. But it is also a business transaction.
Yes.
You are not looking for a best friend. You are looking for a business representative. So as much as you might absolutely love one agent on a personal level, you have to look at all of those other factors. Who's on their client list? How do they operate? How do they communicate? What are their sales like? All of that stuff, and make a business decision. But don't disregard your gut. Don't go with a high roller, big selling agent if your gut is saying this is wrong. So I don't know, just be prepared to give yourself some space to think about all of those things and process all of it, and be prepared to be kind of exhausted for a while. And saying no is going to hurt.
Yeah. I found talking it out to be like, once I think my gut knew what I wanted to do, I still wasn't quite ready to commit to that. Commitment's not really my thing. Yeah, sorry. MK knows commitment's not my game, but it helped. I had a friend who I got coffee with, and I sat down, and she didn't even know that I was writing books. She didn't know any of this. So I was like, all right, I've got a lot of information to lay on you. Like, here's what I've been doing with the past 5 years of my life. And here's where I am now. And here's what it all means. And let me give you like some publishing 101 and explain all my rationale and all my reasoning and how I think I got to this decision. And she knew me well. So it was one of those things where she would have known, and she would have been able to call me on it if she's like, you're talking yourself into something, you are not listening to your gut. Like, I can tell you are just not 100% behind what you're saying. But for me and my personality, it was very validating to have someone say, clearly you've thought this out. I think, I believe what you're saying, so therefore you should believe what you're saying. I don't sound good here.
Well, no, I mean that neutral sounding board is really important. I mean, I absolutely have people in my life who know nothing about writing and publishing or any of that I just like spout things off to, just to
because
see.
they don't have outside opinions, so they won't say like, well, I know this agent or I know someone repped by them, but they can just say, I know you, and I'm listening to how you're talking about this and what sounds important to you and what's going to give you that, and
Yeah. Well, and, it's the same reason that I always recommend reading your manuscript out loud to someone or something, whether it's, a plant or your dog or a very patient spouse or something. The act of reading to someone, of speaking to someone, for me at least, seems to unlock different parts of my brain, and it just makes me think about things in a different way. So I don't know. I guess that's what we'll leave you with. If you have more questions about this topic, please feel free to reach out. You can do ttypewrite@gmail.com. You can use hashtag AskTandType on Twitter. And maybe if we get enough questions, we'll do another like mini episode with, either me or Leigh or Jamie or some combination thereof, later on down the road, and see if we can get your questions answered. So we always like to end by recommending a thing. It can be bookish, it can be not bookish. Do you have something you want to recommend this week, Leigh?
I do. So I am going to recommend yoga. I have been an on and off yoga attendee beginner for years, but over the past month, I've tried to build a regular practice. And I found it very calming and it helps me to center myself and de-stress and kind of click my brain from one part to another and let some of the things that need to be let gone. So, so that's what I'm recommending today is yoga.
That sounds great. Yeah, it sounds like I have a lot of trouble with that like brain transition period. This week, I am going to recommend a site that you've probably already heard of if you follow me on social media. I am currently obsessed with forthewords.com. It's the number 4thewords.com. And it is a website where you defeat monsters by typing a certain amount of words in a certain amount of time, and you get experience, and you level up, and you get items, and you get to explore a little dungeon and all that stuff. So like, it is the most me thing in the world. Very happy about it. They do have a free 30-day trial, so it's exactly long enough for Nano, so yay. So that's what I'm doing right now. I am adoring it. I do recommend it. So speaking of Nano, really fast Nano updates. How are you doing, Leigh?
Sorry.
It's okay. I believe in you.
I am not on my goal yet, but I will get there. I have only written 2,000 words so far this month. I did spend some time working on hammering out plot holes and working on my outline. So I am determined to catch up and just kind of throw myself back into it and get that word count back up there.
Awesome. Yeah. I am hovering around 11,000 words right now, which probably sounds really great, but normally I like to like get a nice pad going at the beginning. Like I write a lot of extra because I know down the road I'm going to get tired or something's going to happen or I'm going to get sick, which is not happening. And, the word count's going to drop. So we'll see if I can maintain, I guess. And speaking of which, we are going to go over to Twitter now and do some writing sprints from 9:30 Eastern to 10 o'clock Eastern. So for the next half hour, basically, feel free to jump in and join us. Report in on hashtag #TandType so that we can pat you on the back and give you high fives and cookies and all of that good stuff, no matter how much progress you make or what you're working on. Does not have to be NaNoWriMo. So you can follow me over there at GeektasticLib, short for Geektastic Librarian, and you can follow Leigh at LeigMar_. And those are down in the show notes if that's confusing. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss our next episode, which is going to be next Monday, November 13th. This has been TandType. Let's head over to Twitter and make some words together. Bye.
Bye.